All right, welcome in everybody to the deep dive. We're going to be jumping into something pretty fascinating today. We're going to be talking about robots.
Robots.
Robots, and specifically robots in the hospitality industry, hotels and restaurants. And I know you out there listening, you're looking to understand all this stuff really quickly and thoroughly, and we're going to give you some really key insights here. So get ready for some aha moments as we break down how robots are changing these industries.
Ah,
We've got a bunch of different sources here. We've got articles from Social Tables, Proven Robotics, Forbes, RevFind.com, Muse, Hotel News Resource, and Rich Tech Robotics to give us a really good look at this kind of evolving trend. And we're going to be covering, why are hotels and restaurants adopting robots? What are the different types of robots being used? What are the benefits and limitations? And of course, what does the future hold? So in this deep dive, we're really going to unpack how these automated helpers are popping up in places you might least expect, and what it all means for the future of service. Before we get too far into it, though, just a quick note. This deep dive is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice.
hmm
Think of this as a fun and informative starting point. We hope you enjoy. So let's dive in. Let's start with the why here. What's driving this whole robot revolution in the hospitality industry?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
Well, there are a few things happening, all kind of converging at the same time. Probably the biggest factor is this labor shortage that hotels and restaurants are facing.
Hmm.
Events over the past few years have really shaken things up, and people are choosing different types of jobs or different sectors, leaving these industries short-staffed.
Yeah.
Forbes reported that, a huge, like 82% of U.S. restaurant and food service businesses are actually trying to hire right now, but almost half of them are still struggling to fill those positions. So, cooks, servers, things like that.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. You see help wanted signs everywhere these days, so it's definitely a noticeable trend.
It really is.
And it's not just that there aren't enough people. I imagine the cost of employing people has gone up as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The cost of doing business in general, right, including wages, has been rising steadily.
Yeah.
So robots, they present a potential way to kind of mitigate those costs over the long run.
Yeah.
There's obviously the initial investment in getting the robots in the first place, but you don't have to worry about salaries or benefits or even giving them breaks like you do with human employees.
Right.
In fact, one robotics company even highlighted that their food runner robot, it actually costs less per month than hiring a full-time human server.
Wow, that really puts it into perspective. So filling those staffing gaps and potentially saving money, those are big motivators. But I also imagine there's an element of trying to give guests a unique experience, right?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, hotels and restaurants are always trying to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
Stand out, attract customers, create a really memorable, positive experience. And robots are definitely a way to do that. I mean, there's a novelty factor there,
Yeah.
a certain wow factor that guests will probably remember and tell their friends about. Plus, robots can take care of some of those more mundane tasks,
Mm.
and that frees up human staff to focus on the more personalized interactions.
Yeah.
Really make guests feel special, which ultimately enhances that human touch that we all crave in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we've got a pretty good understanding now of the why. Let's move on to the who here. What kinds of roles are these robots actually taking on in hotels specifically?
So hotels are getting really creative with how they're using robots. You have robots that are basically acting as concierges.
Mm-hmm.
Hilton had one called Connie. That's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
And it was powered by, get this, IBM Watson. So it was able to use AI, basically meaning it could understand guest questions and get better at answering them over time. It could give info about local attractions or dining options, even just basic hotel services. Then you have robots acting as like butlers.
Okay.
Aloft Hotels, they have one called ALO or Butler, and it basically runs room service deliveries. Imagine, ordering something and having a robot bring it right to your door.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. It seems like it's both a fun novelty, but also genuinely useful, especially if you need something small delivered really quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hurry.
And then you have the delivery robots like Dash that you find at Crown Plaza hotels. Those guys are focused on delivering, snacks, toiletries, that sort of thing to guest rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really neat is that these robots can often navigate on their own using the hotel's Wi-Fi. They can even go back and charge themselves when they need to,
That's so cool.
right? I mean, some hotels are even experimenting with robots at the front desk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Henna Hotel in Japan, they have a Velociraptor
A
robot.
velociraptor.
Yeah, it's a Velociraptor robot. Guests check in using a touchscreen, and they can even use facial recognition to access their rooms. Plus, they have these little robots in the rooms called Churi-san that can control things like the lights and the temperature and provide information to guests.
A robot velociraptor checking you in. That's definitely a unique experience. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I can see how robots would be especially useful for dealing with luggage. That can be such a hassle sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Yotel, they have robots specifically for that. Their Yobot can store and retrieve, get this, around 300 bags every day, streamlining the check-in and check-out process for everyone
Oh, wow.
and freeing up the staff for other things. Then there are those general service robots like Clio and Leo. Hotel EMC2 uses them. They can deliver things like, towels or toiletries when the human staff is busy.
Mm.
We're also seeing robots doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work, like delivering fresh linens, things like that, and even housekeeping robots that can clean and disinfect rooms. Yeah. And some hotels are using robots as like that first point of contact for guests, answering common questions, giving directions.
Wow. It sounds like they're involved in almost every aspect of the hotel experience at this point.
Yeah.
What about restaurants? What kind of robotic helpers are making their way into the kitchen and dining areas?
Oh, yeah. Restaurants are getting in on this too, in all kinds of ways. Um, for one, we're seeing robots that can serve food to tables and bus those tables. A good example is Rictec's Matrady L. And as we talked about earlier, these types of robots can really help save on labor costs compared to human servers.
Right.
And there are also robots being used for food prep back in the kitchen, which means potentially more consistent food and faster service.
I could see how consistency would be a huge benefit, especially during really busy times. What other kinds of tasks are robots doing in restaurants?
Well, for example, you've got robots like Rictec's Richie that are being used for curbside delivery.
Yeah.
They have these like secure compartments so people can pick up their orders contactlessly. And some of the most talked about robots are the ones doing drink service.
Oh, wow.
Richtech makes one called Adim that could be a bartender, a barista, even make boba tea.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A robotic barista. I have to admit, I'd be pretty curious to see that in action.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And some restaurants are using robots as waiters, like taking customer orders at their table and then bringing them their food when it's ready.
Wow.
And even crazier, there are robots out there that can cook whole meals, like all kinds of different dishes, even customized stuff. It's amazing.
Really? Wow. Okay, so we've seen this whole range of robotic helpers now.
Yeah.
What are the biggest advantages for the hotels and restaurants that decide to go this route?
Well, the benefits are pretty significant. We touched on it earlier, but significant cost savings on labor is a big one. I mean, robots can work 24/7, no breaks, no complaints,
Hmm.
and they can perform those repetitive tasks like cleaning and delivering much more efficiently than humans can.
Yeah.
And from the guest perspective, robots can actually mean faster service and those fun, unique interactions we were talking about.
Mhm.
And even, the cleaning robots can improve safety because they could detect hazards, spills, things like that.
And of course, that allows the human staff to really focus on those interactions with guests.
Exactly.
Right.
When robots are handling the more time-consuming and maybe less engaging tasks, that frees up human employees to actually engage with guests, build relationships, and create those really personalized experiences that are at the heart of good hospitality.
I love that.
And of course, there's the potential for better quality control in the kitchen when you've got a robot cooking. And robots, as I said, they can operate 24/7. Plus, using robots, it kind of gives a hotel or restaurant this sort of cutting-edge appeal, which can attract a whole new type of customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some pretty compelling advantages. But there have to be some drawbacks as well, right? I mean, are some of the limitations or things that a business should really think about before investing in robots?
You're absolutely right. It's not all sunshine and roses with robots. Most robots these days still require some level of human oversight, just to make
Mhm.
sure everything's running smoothly and safely.
Right.
And there's always the risk of, someone damaging them or vandalizing them, which businesses would have to account for. And then there's the upfront cost of acquiring and implementing this kind of technology. It can be substantial, which might make it, difficult for smaller businesses to get on board.
Yeah. I bet that initial investment can be pretty steep.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
And, while robotics technology is getting better all the time, the current robots, they're still kind of limited in what they can do.
Yeah.
They might not be able to handle those unexpected situations as well as a human can.
Hmm.
or offer that same level of personal connection and empathy that we get from another person.
Right.
They're great at specific tasks, but they're not quite there yet when it comes to that nuanced understanding, that emotional intelligence that humans have.
Yeah.
And there's also that bigger societal question that we need to consider, which is what happens if robots start replacing too many of the jobs that people rely on?
Right.
Right, that's a big one. And then, just practically speaking, robots require regular maintenance to keep them running.
Right.
So that's another cost to consider.
So it really is a balancing act, isn't it? You gain efficiency, potentially save money in the long run, but you're losing some of that human adaptability and flexibility, and you have to factor in those costs, both the initial investment and the ongoing upkeep.
Yeah.
So looking ahead then, what do you think the future holds for automation in this industry? Are we going to be seeing completely automated hotels and restaurants anytime soon?
Well, the general consensus seems to be that we're definitely going to see more and more robots in hotels and restaurants. But it's more likely that they'll be working alongside human staff rather than completely replacing them. The focus seems to be on using robots for those more repetitive tasks, freeing up humans to focus on the guest experience and creating those special moments that people remember.
So more of a team effort between humans and robots.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this exciting possibility of different robots and even smart devices, like in the rooms, being able to communicate and work together to make things run even more efficiently.
Cool.
Some folks in the industry are even talking about this like renaissance of true service, where technology actually helps to enhance human interaction,
Hmm.
allowing staff to provide even better, more personalized service.
I love that. That's such a great way to look at it. Not replacing the human element, but actually making it even more impactful.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
It's not about a completely humanless experience. It's about humans and robots working together to elevate the whole thing for everyone.
Wow. So, you listening out there, you've now got a really solid understanding of how robots are diving into the hospitality scene. It's a fascinating glimpse into the future of service.
Yeah,
And you know what? It really makes you think about how this technology is going to change what we expect from hotels and restaurants.
it really does.
How will the definition of good service evolve? And what will human employees continue to bring to the table that robots just can't?
Great questions.
Yeah, lots to ponder there. If you found this deep dive insightful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone else who might be interested. And be sure to leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions you might have. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.